Hello, today we're going to be unboxing the LaserPecker LP4 Plus accessories to see what's inside, what sort of quality it is, and how we can make use of it. Let's go. Right, okay, so have a look at this. We've got a nice little user manual window here, and here, oh, it's a nice colour. Yeah, it's really nicely packaged. Right, blimey, it keeps going.
It does.
Goggle case. Oh yeah. Oh, whoa. So we do have a laser cutter already. We got one late last year. However, the limitation of it is that it's a stationary machine and you're sort of limited by what you can fit inside it. Whereas this one is a portable laser cutter. We can basically place this on whatever surface, wherever we want, on Rob's forehead, and we can engrave something right there and then without needing to bring the piece to the machine. We bring the machine to the piece with this. And it was at this point I called in Rob so he could manage the laser side of things while I worked on getting the mallet coins ready for engraving.
Now we've got it set up, let's talk through the features. The key thing here is that there are two different types of lasers within this machine. A 10-watt laser for engraving woods, leathers and other similar materials, and a 2-watt laser for metals, plastics and any material with a paint coating. These aren't all the materials this machine can handle, but they are the primary ones that we're going to utilise within the workshop. The LaserPecker can also cut as well as engrave. We're talking about depths of up to 8mm in balsa wood and 5mm in darker opaque acrylics. So next, let's take a look at the speed and the precision of these lasers. They can work up to speeds of 4,000mm per second at a ridiculously high accuracy of 0.0019mm. Obviously, these are crazy numbers, but it basically gives us peace of mind that we can replicate the same task over and over again and get exactly the same results. It's worth noting that if you want to engrave or cut deeper into materials, you will have to slow the work speed down dramatically to enable the laser to reach those depths. Now, the primary selling point for us was the portability of this laser setup, and so far it's held up to its claim of being the world's first portable dual laser machine. It weighs only 4 kilos and it's pretty quick to plug in and get engraving. This means not only can we use it for small items, but we can also use it on much larger objects too. And with 120mm by 160mm area, you're covered for most applications. But if you need to expand on that, there is the slide extension, which we found works really well, expanding your work area up to 160 by 300mm. Then, if you want to work on cylindrical objects, there's always the option of the rotary extension. Which leads us nicely onto the software that comes with this machine. LaserPecker Design Space is free to use and we found it suitable for everything we needed from it, at least for now. But it's good to know that if we do need to upgrade, the laser is compatible with the paid software Lightburn, should we want to expand the functionality further. Realistically, for most use cases, the free software does the job. Now, a nice little touch to the laser is that you can actually run the system via your phone using Bluetooth. Now, while it can feel a little restrictive using a smaller screen, it does mean that you can engrave basic images very quickly, as you now no longer need to connect to it with a laptop and cable. Then, as a bonus, once you've performed your engraving once, you can select the same file again from the handy touchscreen and repeat the process without any additional device. And finally, we should probably touch on health and safety features of this machine, because realistically, lasers are fairly dangerous to be around. Knowing there's overheat protection and tilt protection is always nice to be aware of, and the additional 360-degree cover we got with the laser makes a huge difference for air quality, especially when paired with the desktop extraction unit. Of course, the various shielding options are also designed specifically to protect your eyes from the 450nm and 1064nm wavelengths of the lasers. Okay, so that's pretty much all the features covered, but how is it to actually use it? I thought what we'd do, so we'll grab ourselves a marking knife. This is a snakewood and brass one. And we're going to engrave the box and we're going to engrave the ferrule on the marking knife itself. So first things first, we need to get this powered up. Nice, easy cable here, plugged into the back, and it immediately turns on, or at least it activates, as you can see there. You might even be able to hear the fan. Now this means that I can already go straight to my phone, open up the LaserPecker app. There we go, and start working with it. It says at the moment no device is connected. That's absolutely fine because I just had it turned off. Let's discard everything I had so we can start from scratch. Click create. Let's click the settings there, connect it. There we go, easily visible. Connect straight away, and now you can basically see the engraving area that we're working with. You can see the red box is displaying basically this, and then the blue box is displaying the optimal area that the lasers can actually reach. Because of course, as it's a stationary laser, it's pivoting within the head of this unit in order to capture each edge. It's not moving the head itself. So now we've got it turned on and connected, we should probably think about how we're going to engrave the top of this lid. If we have a look at the size of this lid, it's actually exceeding, I go on the close-up, exceeding the width of the work area. Conveniently, that's where the slide extension comes in. This thing simply goes over the top here, and it's going to slide back and forth, hence the name, in order to engrave larger objects. So now, because I've risen the bed, I'm now going to have to make the laser rise up as well. And now I can do that via the buttons on the top here, but it's a little bit over to the left. I need this laser to be up and over here because of this plate. That's where this comes in. I'm going to undo the work that I just did, power it off. Didn't think about this, did I? Unscrew this. Ooh. Don't rest the laser on its lens. Pop this attachment on here. Reattach the laser. Thankfully they've got like little square holes to put it in, so it's nice and easy, he says. There we go. And now you can see that's much better, actually going directly over the slide extension here. Right, so let's turn it back on again, and we're going to reconnect to the LaserPecker. So there are a couple of cables that we need to plug in before we can get engraving, and that's one to power the slider, and it basically all powers off this head here. So that's a USB cable at the back into the base, and of course we need to power the slider as well. So again, another USB into the back and powering the base here. Oh, there we go, it's moving. Should have prepared myself. So now I've got the lid, I'm gonna whack it on top, and I'm gonna try and find a place where it's as straight as possible and nice and stable. Then on the app, I'm gonna select slide extension mode, confirm, go back, and now you can see that the red sort of work area that we saw before that displayed what was underneath here is now much longer. That's displaying how far along you can go with the slide extension. Next, I wanna put my image, my engraving onto the software. So let's upload that, ignoring the cat photos along the way. So here you can see a graphic I made yesterday, made up of Matt's signature and sort of a pattern of designs made by a guy called Tom Aliff. Really cool stuff. And I want that to be displayed horizontally on here. So if that's the case, I'm gonna have to rotate this by 90 degrees. I can't actually see where the degrees are. Here we are. I wish that they locked into place, these degrees. It would be fine if I was using a laptop, but I actually personally prefer using the phone, and I'll show you a couple of reasons why coming up next. So we've got the graphic, we click preview at the top right hand corner, and it should move itself into place and show the starting point where this graphic is going to display itself. Now hopefully you can see from the close-up camera over there that there is a blue line and a couple of red dots. The blue line is showing my starting point and the red dots are showing my focus. Step one is to increase the height, oh that's lower, increase the height of the laser until the red dots become 1. That means that the laser is in focus. Done. Then with the blue line, I want to find that starting point, but at the moment I would say it's too wide because I've made it far too big on here. Let's reduce the size. So I want to make sure that blue line is exactly the width of what I want here. And so the reason why I really like the app over using a laptop is the fact that it's responsive. It works instantly, so that I can see this blue line in real time. You might not be able to see it from the camera angle, but I can see it in real time, reacting to what I'm doing. So I can expand it or contract it in order to get it absolutely perfectly in place. Whereas on the laptop, it's basically you move it and then the light moves afterwards. It's not real time, and it's really frustrating because of that. So here's an example. If I were to move the design on the app, move it up, you can see the slider moves as well. If I move it down, the slider moves as well. So it's all really quick and easy to maneuver. I've just got to find the right starting point. Normally you wouldn't be doing this from the back. This is for your benefit. Okay, so there's my starting point. Now the really cool thing here is I can click a button on the screen that says scrolling. If I do that, it shows me the entire path that it's going to take in order to engrave this image. And that shows me that not only is my starting point in the right position, good, but it shows me that my ending point isn't, which either means that my image is too small on the display here, or I need to realign this box on this grid in order to make sure it's perfectly in place. So let me go about doing that. Right, now that's all sorted and all lined up. It does take a bit of trial and error, but you get there, it's nice and visual, it's not a problem. It's time to get engraving. I will say that if I was being correct about setting all of this up, I would be making use of the extractor and the full-on enclosure for it, but there are extra steps to putting on the legs of that in order to extend the height up due to this. We might have used the extractor just a little bit too much in our testing, so it's not extracting as well as it could do, and I think that's a pretty poor representation, because when we got it, it was ideal. We've actually just pushed it a little bit too far, and that's our fault. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this up completely open, and when it's running, I'm going to step away and keep airflow going in this room. But otherwise, ideally, I'd be using the extraction setup, I'd be using the filters, and don't worry, when I'm looking at it, I will be wearing the glasses. So let's get engraving. On the screen, we've seen the preview running. I'm going to click next. I want to create this in 4K because that's a really nice balance where you're going to get detail from the pattern without going overboard in terms of sort of a laser focused on an area for too long, which starts to create a bit of a fire hazard, or at least it creates a fire hazard if you haven't dialed in the settings as far as you need to. But the problem is, if you go up to 8K, you are now slowing the process down. So 4K is quite a nice place to be. So we're going to call this marking knife design V1. And saving it like this means that in the future, I can actually just type it in on the top here or scroll through recently engraved projects, and I'll be able to select it directly due to me naming it correctly. So now it's just a case of pressing send file. That transfers to this up here. There we go. It's just taking a little bit of time. The larger the image, the longer it takes, rightfully so. So we're gonna let that do its thing. Right, perfect, that's finished. Now to select the settings that we need in order to engrave this. I'd recommend, if you're running the laser for the first time, especially on materials you don't know, make sure you're trialing with really low values first and working your way up. Make notes of what you're doing along the way as well. There's no way of sort of seeing past engraving settings and seeing the result. So everything you do, make sure you provide evidence for it so you can go back and go, right, I liked that set of settings for that material, and it'll save you plenty of time in the future. So in this case, we're going for the 450 nanometer laser as opposed to the 1064 nanometer laser. That's because the higher value is more for metals, and we'll get to that in a bit. But we're also going for, I believe these settings are actually correct, but this is the power setting here, 70% of the power that it can output. At a depth of 40%, that's how deep the laser is going to engrave into the material you're working with, and only one pass. I don't need to do multiple passes on this because it's cardboard, it's nice and easy, but if it was something like metal, then I might want to do multiple passes in order to get deeper into that material. So, I'm gonna whack on these glasses. Let's press start. Look at that. That's done well. So it's got a little bit of depth to the engraving, so it's removed the black sort of craft paper that was casing the top of it to leave the pattern there. And of course, the nice thing about this is because it was all on the software, I can actually have a look at what it did. I can see that it was in 4K, 40% depth, 70% power, but also that it took 10 minutes and 39 seconds. So in the future, if I do this again, whack one on there, and set a timer for 11 minutes, walk back, sorted, and just rinse and repeat. And now basically that's a nice way of batch processing the whole thing without having to think about it too much. In fact, if you were trying to make it align perfectly every single time, you could set up a few barriers as well so that it's a little bit easier and you don't have to do as many sort of tweaks as I did. So that's the lid. Let's try the knife now. So here's the knife. It looks awesome. Snakewood, brass fowl, and what I want to do is engrave Matt's signature into the back here. So to do that, we actually have to get rid of the slide extension because of course we're using a cylindrical object to engrave onto, being the knife. Let's put this over here. Therefore, we should use a rotary tool or rotary extension to facilitate this. So this is just going to pop in here like so, and as long as I've got clean hands, we can grab the marking knife and insert it into the jaws. So, like for slide extension, we have to power that as well. So I'll take the power that I was using for the slide extension and insert it into here. What I'm curious about actually is whether or not I need this extension accessory here to sort of lift it up and move it over. I might not, it might actually get in the way, but we'll try it out. Let's see what happens. So, plug that in, blue light turns on at the back, and I simply go back to my phone, press quit, and now go to settings, turn off slide extension mode, give it a moment, and now turn on rotary extension mode. There we go. And you can see we've got a much longer work area to play with, because you're thinking now it's a cylindrical object, it could be quite large. In this case it's very narrow, and I'll change our settings in a moment, but you can see we can go quite a bit further than the slide extension suggested earlier. So now we want the signature, so I'm going to add one image. Here we go, it's a nice PNG. You can see it on the screen just there. So it's the same process as putting the pattern onto the box. We got to select the asset, we then select preview. But at this point, we've got to tell the rotary tool the diameter of the cylindrical objects that we're going to be engraving on. I always forget what the marking knives are. You can measure just the perimeter, but in this case, I'm going to get the diameter. That's 12.56. So in the diameter box, I'm writing 12.56, and it's given the perimeter automatically on that left side, 39.27. Click next, and now we can see the preview displaying on here. Okay, so I'm gonna use the phone, which means things are gonna display a little bit weirdly, but it's the same process as how we were dealing with the cardboard. We wanna make sure that the red dots are perfectly together. In this case, they're really close as it is, so close that you can't actually see on screen that they're apart. There you go, you can see two dots there. Let's line them up using these arrows up here. Oh, I might have gone too far. I got distracted. Get that perfectly in place. There we go. And it's worth noting that you can actually increase, or if you can see it, there we go, increase or decrease the brightness of this blue guide marker. But if you increase it too high onto cardboard especially, it is powerful enough to burn. Next step, we've got to go to the signature and reduce it in size. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to get it perfectly in place here where I want it, and then we're going to get this engraving. All right, same process as the slide extension. It's a little bit trial and error, pressing the scroll button, and you can see it rotates to show you your start and finish point. And in this case, I actually had to sort of decide what way up I wanted the signature to be based on how you're holding it. In this case, I've had to rotate the signature 180 degrees, and hopefully that should put it in the optimal position for most people to see it. Right, let's click next. We're gonna go, ooh, that's a good question. We're gonna go 8K because we're really going for high definition here. This is brass. We wanna make sure that there's a lot of power going into it too, so 8K is gonna give us as many pixels to chew through as possible. The lower the resolution, the less sort of surface area you're hitting, and therefore not only are you going to get a less crispy result, you're going to get something that doesn't get the depth that you might be looking for. I'm going to click send file. This is going to be seconds. There we go, if that. And we're going to swap it to 1064. I could select a metal. In this case, unfortunately, they don't have brass, but stainless steel is close enough. And realistically, I'm going all the way. We're going for 100% power, 100% depth, and do I want to do one pass? I think just one pass will do the job. From a few tests I've done before, I think one pass is fine. But like I said, if you're trying out new materials, make sure that you are trialing at much lower power ranges and depths first, because otherwise you're a high chance of damaging something. So when you're engraving into metal, the sound can actually be quite piercing. It's quite a high pitched sound. So what I'm going to do is set this up and leave the room. In fact, I'm going to turn off the cameras and the time-lapse phone as well, just because it's going to be very small, it's going to be very difficult to see, and there are going to be a fair few reflections coming off the brass that I don't really want hitting directly into a lens. So I'm going to press start, and you guys are going to see the finished results. So that's what we've got on there currently, if I can make sure it stays in focus. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're immediately going, that looks burnt, that doesn't look clean. How is that 8K? How is that nice? How is that engraved? Anything at all? Well, if we take this and then take it to the buffing wheel, I'm going to prove to you how good this little machine can do. So now you can see that is the end result. It's a light engraving, but it's clean, tidy, and looks pretty damn smart. So that's the finished result. We've got an engraved marking knife lid, and we've got an engraved ferrule on the marking knife itself, which I think looks pretty good. So what are we going to do with this marking knife? Because obviously this is a little bit more custom than usual. We're going to give it away. So for those of you who have made it to this point in the video, you're in with a chance of getting it. Click the form in the description, just add in your contact details there, so if you win, I can get hold of you. And the code, let's have a think, the secret code is never gonna give you up. I couldn't think of anything better. That's it, never gonna give you up. If you put that as the secret code in the box in that form, then you are in with a chance of winning this engraved box, marking knife, and the few blades that come with it. Oh, and of course, we'll cover the shipping. Right, I should probably prove how easy this is to, you know, deconstruct and pack away. It is one of the biggest sort of incentives to this sort of size of laser. The other one that we've got, it's difficult to move anywhere. Like, you'd never want to move it anywhere anyway, but it's a two-person lift. But this thing, you can have it stored underneath your workbench, you can have it stored in a cupboard, you can have it stored in separate pieces if you really wanted to, and it weighs very little to just pick it up, move it around, and get engraving your next project. Right, hopefully that proves just how easy it is to work with. So overall, this is a great little unit that anyone can use to get into laser cutting or engraving. Whilst it's not the most powerful laser on the market, it managed to achieve the perfect balance of being both small and compact while providing enough power to work on most small scale designs and products. Obviously for us, it was perfect for the coins for the prototype mallets. We've had a great time testing this machine to its limits, and we know it's going to get a lot of use in the workshop for future projects. So if you've got any questions about the LP4 or any of its attachments, don't hesitate to comment below and we'll answer everything we can. Thanks once again to LaserPecker for sponsoring this video.